7.2, we're talking about the roles of the president. We've looked at the qualifications, we've looked at, those presidential powers, if you will, but let's look at what are the job qualifications. What's the president really doing every particular day? As you can see, he has a lot of responsibilities. We're going to go through each one of these, give a little better insight into what they do. So the first thing is the chief of state. It is important that you remember that the president is the living symbol of the nation. And while this might seem trivial, this is a chance for the president to connect with the average American person. And the average American person is the ones who ultimately have the power. And so it's a great way to kind of blend this. And they celebrate national holidays. They stand for the highest values and ideals of the country, and they do these ceremonial duties. For instance, if you remember the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, if you were with us and we went to Washington, well, the president on specific days will go and lay a flower at the tomb. We have the pardoning of the turkey during Thanksgiving time, and also we'll see these other opportunities that come about in which the president has a chance to be this living symbol of power. It is interesting that with a chief of state, there was a new song that came about. It's called Hail to the Chief. And that is a song that is played to announce the arrival of the president. The interesting thing behind that is that it started with the 10th president of the United States, John Tyler. And the reason that it was started is because John Tyler's wife, the first lady, was so worried because John Tyler was pretty small as president. He was taller than James Madison, but he was still small, that she was afraid that when the president walked into the room, nobody would know that he was there. And she wanted people to recognize that when the living symbol of the nation walked in, everybody stopped. And so even to this day, whenever the president makes an official appearance, the United States Marine Band is going to play this song to let people know the president is in the house. They are also the chief executive. A president serves as the chief administrative officer. They have the responsibility to make sure that all laws are faithfully executed. They appoint the officials, the government ambassadors, the other things that we mentioned in Unit 7.1. They decide how the laws are going to be enforced. And you've got to understand, this guy is the boss of thousands and thousands of people who work in the executive branch. And so he is that chief executive. It's an enormous bureaucracy, and it's becoming more and more complex. And so he basically, the president, he or she, has the power to influence virtually every activity of the national government. This is Kennedy enjoying a nice ice cream cone there on the banks of his vacation home in Cape Cod in Massachusetts. But the chief diplomat is the national spokesman. He's a world leader. And you have to recognize that he is the number one representative of a country of immigrants who have ties all around the globe. And his responsibility is to not just set foreign policy, but to defend America's security and economic interests, to promote democratic principles, to ask for and to emphasize human rights. And, this is a good thing for presidents if they're having a hard time at home. Maybe they have a Congress that isn't really working very well. And so what we start seeing is that this president, if they're not getting much done at home, they'll go and work on foreign issues so that their power and their freedom can be less hindered. So they're a chief diplomat. They're also commander-in-chief. Here's Harry Truman. He's on a boat doing a little exercise here, showing how to do it. We've already talked about being commander-in-chief. During times of war, the power of the presidency increases, allows you to do a variety of things that maybe isn't necessarily on an average day. I mean, you have to think about this. Commander-in-Chief Harry Truman right here had to be responsible for dropping the atomic bomb. He had to make that decision, a very difficult decision, which just goes to show the burden of such awesome power that rests heavily on every person that is, as president, or part of this living symbol of the nation. They're also the chief legislature, which they influence Congress and lawmaking. This is President Clinton. This is House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Gingrich was a Republican, Clinton was a Democrat, but yet they worked together to try to get things to take place to be successful as they moved about. And also the president has the opportunity, as we've talked about, to use executive orders. They're also the party chief. Calvin Coolidge, one of the first weight rooms that was in the White House, and the party chief. Remember that the authors of the Constitution, they hoped that there would be a president without any partisan politics, a president who was not involved in political parties. George Washington couldn't stand political parties. He said that they were going to ruin government. They were not going to do any good. And remember in his farewell address, he said, hey, the last thing we need to do is have political parties. Well, of course, the system that we have today encourages and demands political parties to articulate differences and to be effective. And for political parties, the presidency is the highest prize. To be able to say that your guy is in the White House is huge, and you'll start to recognize that the president gets into the White House because of people in his party, and therefore he has to reward the people in the party by giving them particular jobs, to give them particular benefits, things like that. And then after you get into the presidency, you still have to rely on your base, your support, to be able to remain as president. And he's also the chief guardian of the economy. The chief guardian of the economy, basically, as you can see, it is concerned with unemployment, high prices. I mean, the president today, during this pandemic of the coronavirus, yes, he is very, very concerned about the health and the well-being of the people. And not only does that include their physical health, but it also includes their economic health. The idea of having such terrible unemployment does not look good for a president. He was boasting, President Trump, about having high stocks, and the money was good, the economy was good, life was good. That makes a president look really good, and you have a great chance to be reelected just because of the economy. Because if the economy is doing well, that means families are doing well, they have money, they're able to spend it, they're able to enjoy life. But if the economy is not doing good, then he is going to face the trouble with that. And even though his power to control the economy is quite limited, woe to the chief executive who governs during a time of economic downturn. Right now, if the election was to be held with everything going on as far as the economy, there's no way that the current president would be able to be reelected. You see, the politician in each president knows what it takes to remain popular. And in the words of the political consultant James Carville, it's the economy, stupid. It is a huge part of maintaining the presidency.